If you've ever watched a soccer match, you know it's this beautiful mix of skill, strategy, and just pure, wonderful chaos. A lucky bounce, a moment of absolute brilliance. That's why we love the game, right? But what happens when you point a really powerful AI at all that chaos? Well, today we're going to find out. We're going to see what happens when an advanced algorithm tries to predict the beautiful game. I mean, that's the big question, isn't it? Can an algorithm really get a handle on the passion, the rivalry, and the sheer beautiful randomness of 90 minutes of football? Well, that's exactly what we're here to explore. And we're not just talking theory here. We've got a specific case study to look at, a super detailed report from an AI called Spectra. It's forecasting a future clash between Nottingham Forest and Leeds United at the City Ground. So yeah, we're going to pull this thing apart piece by piece. But before we jump to the final prediction, we kind of need to understand how the AI even starts to think about a game like this. What's in its playbook? Let's pop the hood and see what's inside. Okay, so the first tool in its kit is something you might have heard of from chess, the ELO rating. The best way to think about it is like a live power ranking. When a team wins, it basically steals some points from its opponent. If it loses, it gives points away. It's this constantly shifting measure of a team's real strength. And right away, when we look at the numbers, we get our first big clue. With an ELO of about 1542 compared to Leeds 1509, the AI gives Forest a slight statistical edge right out of the gate, and that's based purely on their recent form and historical strength. But here's the thing. Spectra isn't just one single AI. No. This prediction comes from what's called a unified ensemble. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a council of expert analysts. Each one looks at the data a little differently, and then they all get together to vote on the final outcome. And this is that council. It's made up of 5 different models, and they all have different ways of looking at the problem. For instance, you've got a random forest model that asks thousands of what-if questions, and then an artificial neural network that tries to spot patterns, kind of like a human brain would. You can see by the weights here that they all get a vote, but, some of their opinions count just a little bit more. It's this variety that makes the final prediction so strong. All right, so we know how the AI thinks. Now let's see what happens when it actually applies those tools to our 2 teams. It's time for the data-driven tale of the tape. So the first thing the AI does is weigh the big, obvious factors. In Forest's corner, you've got that slightly higher ELO rating we just saw, plus the huge factor of home ground advantage. And for Leeds, well, they're fighting against that statistical grain, playing away with a lower ELO to start. But here's where the real world just loves to throw a wrench in the works. Injuries. And believe me, this isn't just a small detail. It's a massive deal. Nottingham Forest has this long list of key players out. Leeds, on the other hand, they're looking almost perfectly healthy. That is a huge variable that could potentially wipe out a lot of Forest's home advantage. Okay, so the AI Council has done its thing. It's looked at the ELO ratings, it's factored in the home crowd, it's considered all those injuries, it's run thousands and thousands of simulations. So after all that, what is the final verdict? Okay, and here it is, the big reveal. The AI gives Nottingham Forest a 44% chance of winning at home. But, and this is a big but, look at that number for a draw. Over 36%. That is huge, and an away win for Leeds is just under 20%. So yeah, Forest is the favorite, but the AI is basically shouting that a draw is an incredibly strong possibility here. But we're not done yet, not by a long shot. Because a really good forecast does more than just pick a winner. It digs into the little details, the nuances of how the game might actually play out. And that's where we get into this really cool metric called expected goals, or XG for short. It's not just about how many shots a team takes, it's about the quality of those chances. The AI projects Forest will create chances worth about 2.2 goals, which is more than double the 1.1 projected for Leeds. Basically, the AI is saying, look, Forest is probably going to be creating way better chances to score throughout the entire game. And this is where it gets really interesting. When you break all that data down into the most likely final scores, you see something pretty cool. A 2-1 win for Forest is the single most likely result. But look how close the others are. A 1-1 draw and a 2-0 home win are right on its heels. The AI isn't just giving us one single answer. It's showing us a whole cluster of very possible scenarios. All right, so we've waded through all of this data.
We've looked at Elo, we've looked at XG. So what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean?
And this, right here, is probably the most important thing to remember. The AI isn't a fortune teller with a crystal ball. It's like a super-powered odds calculator. It can't tell us what will happen. It uses all this data to tell us what is most likely to happen, giving us this incredibly powerful objective look at the game.
You know, the report itself actually says it perfectly with this simple line: predictions do not guarantee outcomes. It's this honest little nod to that beautiful unpredictability we talked about at the very beginning. The data gives you the odds, but it's still 11 players against 11 players on the pitch who decide what actually happens. And that really leaves us with a fascinating question to chew on, right? As these AI tools get better and better at calculating the odds, what does that mean for the game itself? What space is left for the underdog story, for that one moment of pure luck, or for that sheer force of human will that just refuses to follow the numbers? It's something to think about. Thanks for diving into this with me.